And so with other than CGI, they should actually have something that they can move, analog stuff, things that people have used in the past. And so for closer up shots, they had actual hands and stuff that they would use.
でこのような、上半身だけの、当時私が最初に参加したゴジラに出てきたやはりそれでも同じようなロボットを作っていて、それに用いてサイボットと我々。
And like even though they're using a lot of CGI, they like the first movies that he worked with, they had just the upper body of a Godzilla model that they would use to move the movements for very close-up shots.
それと同様に、いろいろなゴジラが現れたことによって起きる影響等をすべて特撮の今までと同じ方法で撮影するようにしました。
So from the 6-year history of Godzilla, a lot of the special effects they used with him coming up on shore and moving out are things that they've done in the past.
これも最初に川からゴジラが現れる時の川の水の素材です。
So when he comes out of the river there in the beginning, this is actually what they did. It's not CGI, it's actually all analog.
そして建物を壊すところも後で CG のところに。
And so you can see this, it's painted that color because that will be CG in the end, but all the houses are miniatures. So they're using analog and digital at the same time.
青い塊を全部後で CG に置き換えるつもりで撮影しました。
Yeah, exactly what I just said. It's blue because they got to add the CG in it later. They added in later.
いろんなところに GoPro を置いたけど結局使えませんでしたね。
He said he did all these different things, and most of these scenes they didn't use.
結局青い部分がいっぱいあるじゃないですか。それを見たときに CG のチームがこれを全部消して何かを合成するのが嫌だって言い始めて。
And because there was so much blue with the Godzilla himself, the CG team kept looking at us and there's so much blue in this, we don't want to erase all of this. And so they started to do it and they said, this is too much work, so they...
だったら壊れる建物も CG でやった方がいいというのが CG.
So they had different teams wanted to do the analog, different teams wanted to do the digital now, so they're fighting in between each other because, well, if you're going to do that, just make all the buildings CGI as well. No, we don't analog it. And then you had to see, no, we don't want to erase it, make it all CGI. So they were fighting among themselves.
Was the intent in including a lot of model work to keep the tradition alive? This is probably typical with a mostly CG film.
はい。そうですね。
Yes, because of things that were in the past, they wanted to have something that mimicked what they'd done in the past.
But in large part, you don't think there is much future for this now, for model work?
はい。あるんじゃないですかね。
No, I still think there's still a part it will play. As you were saying before, the long shots are easy with CGI, but the closer up ones they look a little bit cheap.
But he's telling us that all of these were rejected, and they look great to me.
いや全部ではないです。
He said most of them, not all of them. Some of them were used. Okay.
本当ラッキーなことに今回は CG のクオリティがすごい高かった。だけどいつも高いとは限らないので、あと高いクオリティの CG を作ろうと思ったらバジェットがかかるので、それをどうやって抑えるかというのを一つ考えなきゃいけない。
Most of the CGI does take a lot of money, takes a lot of time as well, and so they actually had their budget was all worked out before, and so they knew what they could work with, and that's why they were able to use a lot more CGI because it was a new thing and because they hadn't done it a while before. But as you come up with a certain budget that Toho or other companies will give you, you'll have to probably use a lot of analog to keep up with the budget, keep it within the budget.
And I wanted to ask him from a personal point of view. It would seem to me to be more fun to work with models and miniatures, but how do you feel versus CG?
そういうことを言うと一生懸命 CG を作っている人たちが怒り出すので僕の口からそれは言えないなと。
So you can't say it in a big voice because the CG people get upset.
I think one of the big differences is with CG you can do anything, but with miniatures you have to figure out how to do something.
それでいうとどうやればうまくいくかっていう方法は我々はミニチュアの方がよく知ってるんですね。
In my case, I know a lot more about miniature than CD at this point, so that would not be hard for me to do and something I'd like to do.
それは何かっていうとミニチュアだったらうまくいかないことも知ってるから。
He also knows what won't work with miniatures as well, so it's a good balance.
CG の場合面倒くさいことは毎年どんどんアップデートされることなんです。
And the one thing I don't like about CG itself is every year they update it. They make it better than it was before.
3年前できなかったことが今ではできるようになっている。
And so something that you couldn't do 3 years ago, you can now do, and so now they have to research that as well.
でも一方で例えば CG というのは世界中全てのその映画を作る人たちが同じものを使っているので、これなんかで見たことあるっていうのがすごく多いですね。
And now he thinks that there's a lot of movies that are similar because they're using the same software.
だから今回のゴジラで我々がね本当に好きなだけスカイクレーパーを壊すことができたのはマン・オブ・スチールのおかげなんですよ。マン・オブ・スチールっていう映画が、マン・オブ・スチール。
Okay. A lot of the reasons they were able to do what they wanted to do is because of the movie The Man of Steel. They were able to see that and not mimic it, but use that in their CG, the way that they wanted to push it, this movie in the CG. It's from The Man of Steel.
だから結局アメリカで作られた映画の CG が素晴らしいとそれは我々に1年か2年ぐらい遅れて届いてくる。
And so after seeing that movie, that it comes into Japan a year or two later than it happens in America, basically, when it comes to stuff like that. But having seen that movie, they realized that they would be able to use it, and that was a big push for the movie in CG.
それでいうとなんだろうそういううまく使える CG を知ってればうまくいくんですけど、うまくいくかどうか分かんないものをそこにお金を突っ込んでも失敗した時が目も当てられない場合が CG です。
And so when it comes to CG as well, for them it's a new thing as well. And so if it works well and looks good, then it's really perfect. But if it doesn't work well, you've wasted a lot of money, a lot of time, and so people get upset at you very quickly.
だからそれを考えると本当どっちが好きでどっちが嫌いかとかではない段階になってくる。
And so right now, him and some other people are in the middle, and they don't really hate either one. They're trying to make a balance of them.
その辺を考えるとねどっちがいいって僕はまだなんだろうな多分一生もしかしたら結論を出せないかもしれない。
And a lot of people ask him the same thing, which one is better. But he thinks he'll never be able to say exactly which one is better forever. It'll just be depending case by case, I think.
I'm wondering if you can show us the front of the first form of the Godzilla, because all we ever saw was its tail. Well, we saw the tail part, but we never actually saw what was attached to the tail. I'm wondering if he had a concept on that.
はい、はい、ありますね。今日持ってきてないな。
He has it, but he didn't bring it with him.
You got it.
あれ実はあれは全部CG じゃないんですよあそこは。
That is all not CG. Some of it is not CG actually.
そもそもあんなものをですねそれまでいろんなものを許してなかった東宝が許すわけないので。
There are certain parts that the Toho would not allow, and so they had to change it up for that as well.
東宝に内緒であれ作って内緒で撮影して内緒で編集に入れたんです。
We in the certain scenes with the first transformation of Godzilla, they did a lot of it in secret. Didn't tell Toho about it at all. Stuck it in there.
しかも撮影したのは本当公開の2ヶ月ぐらい前で。
And they were still shooting up until 2 months before they actually showed it in the movie theaters. So.
The previous Godzilla movies were not big hits, and so I'm wondering if he was surprised by what happened at the box office and how he explains that.
はい。はい。 こまでヒットすると思わなかった。
No, I didn't think it would hit this big.
あまりそれ理由はすごい簡単なんですけど、今までゴジラを見に来ないお客さんも見に来てくれたこと。
He never thought it was going to be this big of a hit, but I think the reason it did so well is because so many people who've never seen a Godzilla movie or not been to see one in a long time came to see the movie. So.
であと一つだけ徹底的にやったのが、多分アメリカとはちょっと違うのかもしれないですけど、日本の場合、内容を全く知らせない、どんな映画であるかということを誰にも知らせないで、普通だったらプレビューといって2ヶ月ぐらい前からその映画をいろんなマスコミに見せたりするんだけど、それを一切やらなかった。
And like the original Godzilla as well, they in America a lot of times they'll throw out the small advertising portions of the movie and said they did nothing like that in Japan at all for this, and the original as well. So no one knew what Godzilla was when they first made it the first time, and this time they know the name Godzilla, but they didn't know what kind of movie it would become, and they didn't show any form of it until they were actually showing it in the movie theaters in Japan.
だからそれを結局映画が始まってから見たお客さんもどんな内容かということを見てない人に言わない、秘密にしてくれた、秘密を共有してくれた。
And so in one way, because they're saying we kept it a secret until we showed it in the theaters, the people who went to see it were also keeping it a secret. So you had to go to the movies to see it, or they wouldn't tell you what it was about. So.
それはなぜかというと、最初に出てきたミミズみたいなやつがまさかゴジラになるとは誰も思わない。
The other reason is because no one would believe you. You said it looks like a worm when it first comes out, man. No one would believe it, so they didn't tell anybody about it.
でもそれが見てる人たちがそれを知らずに見て驚いてくれたことを、じゃあ他の人にも同じ気持ちにさせたいからみんな黙っててくれたんですね。
The other reason was because they were very surprised when it came out in the first short form and the second as well. That they kept quiet about it because they wanted other people to be surprised as much as they were. No spoilers, yeah.
I'm curious, do you see a future for this form of Godzilla, or do you think there's going to have to be a different style and form of Godzilla in the future?
He thinks he doesn't know if it will come out as this again, but it depends on who's going to make the next film, of course.
I'm thinking though that this guy is so big and so powerful, and he doesn't have the arms. He can't grapple like the old Godzilla. So I'm just wondering if he sort of thinks that this is his Godzilla, and then whatever comes next might be something different. If King Ghidorah flies overhead, he'd just shoot him and cut him into salami.
終わりですね。もう勝つ方法はないと思う。
There's probably no way to beat this guy.
まあ次の人が考える。
Well, whoever's the next one to come out will probably be the next idea for the Godzilla. So.
Well, does that mean that you have done your Godzilla and have no interest in doing another one?
まあ頼まれればやりたいです。
If they ask me to do it, I would love to do another one.
Yeah.
Well, that, I guess, is a good way to end it. Boy, that hour went fast.